Hello everyone, welcome to the show. Thank you all for coming. Hey. It's so great to see everybody here today. You know, there are so many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses speaking out and making their own videos. I think it's absolutely fantastic. You see, for so long we were silenced. We were made to feel that being critical in any way of the organization would brand you as satanic or as an apostate or a bad person. And people were afraid to say anything. And it's so great to see that people now feel brave enough to tell their story, to say the truth about what really goes on behind this organization. And the organization needs to know that they have no power over us. We're not afraid of you anymore. We are here to tell the truth about what goes on. So kudos to everybody. And all I can say is the more the merrier. Keep on, keeping on, speaking out. Why I'm making today's video is I felt it was so important for people to know what are the methods that Jehovah's Witnesses use in recruiting people. I think you're going to find it's really shocking. I mean, you might feel that there's nothing unique about what they do or that they don't maybe employ manipulation. But when you see what goes on, I think you're going to be unpleasantly surprised. And I find it also scary what happens to people when they do come under the influence of this organization. So these are the things that I want to talk to you about today. Now, if you had Jehovah's Witnesses call on your door, and if you ever ask them, are you here to convert me? They're going to say no. But of course, they're there to convert you. And so right off the bat, the organization has trained them to use deception in their teaching methods. So the thing is that when you look at the majority of people who do join this organization, you're going to find that most of them join at a vulnerable point in their lives. And that is exactly what the Open Minds Foundation has to say on their website about this. Let's have a look. It says there that we are most vulnerable when our routines change. A new town, a new college or job, or after an upset or the breakup of a relationship. We are more open to new ideas at such times. The fact is, all of us are vulnerable at times. And you can see how that works, isn't it? So you just have a relationship that ended and you're like, well, I don't want to do that again. So let's try something new. Or you're in a new city because you got a new job or something and you don't know anybody there. And you got these two smiling people calling on your door and they're complimenting you and they're offering you a free home Bible study. Oh, look at this panda bear, wonderful. And they seemingly answer all your questions. And you're thinking, what could possibly go wrong? If you've ever been involved in a multi-level marketing scheme, you'll know that there's a step-by-step process to get customers to buy the product. High-level control groups are absolutely no different. Check out what the Open Minds Foundation has to say on their website. It says that recruiters first of all want to attract attention. They usually present a cheerful appearance and have a friendly approach. Good morning, how are you? A recruiter wants to develop rapport as quickly as possible, so will often begin with a compliment about your appearance. Oh, isn't it lovely to see you up and about today? Oh, look at that nice dog you have. Isn't he something? A recruiter will seek out ideas to agree with. Crime seems to be on the increase, doesn't it? It brings out there that agreement is the foundation from which an approach will be made. What are your deepest fears? You will be offered a remedy. Oh, wouldn't it be great if crime was a thing of the past? Look at this tract here. The Paradise Earth will bring about a solution to that. So as it says, they get your attention and entice you with something. A multi-level marketing organization that sells cosmetics will offer you something like a free moisturizer in exchange for your time so they can present you with what they want to sell you. With JW.org, they offer you pictures of panda bears in a paradise earth and a free home Bible studies to attract your attention to their cause. Sadly, nothing in life is free. And everything that they promise you, they can never deliver on. People who become members of Jehovah's Witnesses end up dying anyways without ever having received anything. At least with a multi-level marketing company, at least you get to walk away with a free moisturizer. With JW.org, they just take and take and take, and you end up with nothing. When you think about the ones, for example, who 100 years ago were offered, the idea that millions now living will never die. They all died. And many of them died childless and penniless. So after having joined this organization, they were much worse off. And this is normally what happens when you join JW.org. It's not the best life ever that they try to present to you. Let's have a look at one of their publications that they use at their sales meetings, their midweek meeting. It's called the Our Kingdom Ministry. From the December 2003 Kingdom Ministry, look at what I highlighted there. It says, it is helpful to be warm and friendly and to show sincere personal interest. Well, how is it sincere if you have to tell people to be that way? Be sincere! Prepare an appealing Bible subject to discuss. Raise a question. Strive to build on things that you have in common. Doesn't this sound eerily similar to what we just read on the Open Minds Foundation's website? I mean, if Jehovah's Spirit is truly upon the Jehovah's Witnesses, then they should act normally this way. Jehovah's Spirit should be motivating them to normally be this way. You shouldn't have to tell them, be nice, be kind. It doesn't make any sense. So we can see that when they act this way, it's all contrived. It's all phony. Sadly, it works. Have a look at this other Kingdom Ministry. This is from the April 2007 Our Kingdom Ministry. It's talking there about new ones that are coming to the hall. And it says that we need to greet them warmly and to converse with them. And then it has an experience here of a gentleman, says reflecting on his first contact. He says there, I met more genuinely loving people, total strangers in one day than I had ever met in the church in which I was raised. It was apparent that I had found the truth. So this guy was convinced that it was the truth because he was love-bombed. Little did he know that this is what all cults do. Had he been forewarned about this, he would have known better and realized that it was all just a phony act to get him to come into the organization. And this is why I make my videos. People need to be warned about these kinds of things. They'll offer you free home Bible study, but is that really what it is? I call it the old switcheroo method. They'll offer a free home Bible study, but in actuality, what it really is a study of their latest recruitment book. Have a look at this little gem from the Kingdom Ministry of 1976. Here they're encouraging people to study the Bible with people alone if they are unwilling to use any literature other than the Bible. But as you can see from the second paragraph, as the individual gains confidence, an appropriate publication might be introduced. Switcheroo method. When this is done, we do not want to give the impression that we are changing from a Bible study to a book study. The householder should continue to feel that he is studying the scriptures. Does that not sound like a predator? Once they've gained your confidence, then they'll introduce their recruiting book. They don't respect that you'd already told them that you didn't want it, that you only wanted to study the Bible. No, they're going to shove their book on you anyways, once they've gained your confidence. As much as they say that they love the Bible, and they say that they're there to study the Bible with you, they don't believe that it's possible to learn Bible truths from just the Bible alone. Interesting. In fact, ask any Jehovah's Witness to explain to you how they arrived at 1914 using just the Bible. They're not able to. They have to use their publications. Take a look at what they really think of the Bible. This is from the September 15th, 1910 Watchtower. The man who wrote this, his name was Charles Taze Russell, and he's the man that the Jehovah's Witness organization believes was handpicked out of all the people in the world to represent and give out spiritual food. Look what he thinks of the Bible. He says there, if the 6 volumes of scripture studies are practically the Bible topically arranged with Bible-proof texts given, we might not improperly name the volumes the Bible in an arranged form. That is to say, they are not merely comments on the Bible, but they are practically the Bible itself. And it gets better. Look at the second paragraph. Furthermore, not only do we find that people cannot see the divine plan in studying the Bible by itself, but we see also that if anyone lays the scripture studies aside, even after he has used them, after he's become familiar with them, after he has read them for 10 years, if he lays them aside and ignores them and goes to the Bible alone, though he has understood his Bible for 10 years, our experience shows that within 2 years he goes into darkness. On the other hand, if he had merely read the scripture studies with their references and had not read a page of the Bible, as such, he would be in the light at the end of the 2 years, because he would have light of the scriptures. And here are some more Watchtower quotes on the Bible. It says here, the Bible cannot be properly understood without Jehovah's visible organization in mind. They say that it is sufficient to read the Bible exclusively, either alone or in small groups at home. But strangely, through such Bible reading, quote, they have reverted right back to the apostate doctrines that commentaries by Christendom's clergy were teaching 100 years ago. He does not impart his Holy Spirit and understanding and appreciation on his word, apart from his visible organization. The reason why they can't have a Bible study without their publications is because what they're teaching you isn't found in the Bible, but only in their publications. Where does it talk about the overlapping generation of 1914 in the Bible? Where does it tell you that you need to shun your family? Or what about baptizing children? Or that there's 2 classes of people, a heavenly one and an earthly one. Find that in the Bible only. At the beginning of their Bible study, they will allow you to use whichever Bible you want. But once they've gained your confidence, then they will switch to only their Bible. And this is the beginning of their systematic thing, I don't know what you want to call it, but their systematic plan to control whatever you read and whatever you do with the rest of your life. It's interesting. The study will consist of taking turns with them reading the paragraphs. And they will ask the questions. This is where it gets super interesting. You think, well, I'm the Bible student. I'm the one who should be asking the questions, right? This is how they turn it around on you. Suddenly, they're asking all the questions. So you read a paragraph, they ask the question. And how do they want you to answer it? They want you to parrot or regurgitate what you just read from that paragraph. You're like, well, I just said that. Why should I say it again? Because they want to tattoo this information on your brain. Keep on repeating it over and over and over and over again. A gazillion and one times. This is how they operate. Don't think. There's no need to think. They've got an indoctrination plan for you. Read the paragraph. They will ask the question. You parrot back exactly what was just said. But what if you have a question that's not in that exact paragraph? They'll say to you, now some of them might actually go off script and actually start answering. And then they're going to find the whole study goes off on some tangent. And that's not what the organization wants. The organization wants them to stick to the program. So they'll generally say to you, oh, we'll cover that in a future study. Or wait on Jehovah. He'll answer it for you. And you may find that that question you had will never get an answer. You'll never get a proper answer for it. Because you get so muddled up in their own teachings that you end up forgetting it. And you just end up sticking to their program of indoctrination. You've now entered the indoctrination zone. Does the organization resort to manipulation to gain members? Yes, most definitely. Very early on in anybody's study with Jehovah's Witnesses, they actually forewarn them that well-meaning friends and family are going to try to get them to stop studying. In fact, they repeatedly call these well-meaning friends and family Satan, or they constantly compare them to Satan. Look at what they do in the Live Forever book. I'm not going to read all of this, but as you can see from what I've highlighted there, it keeps talking about Satan and how he would pose as a friend, but how he's got all these various schemes to mislead people, how he doesn't want you to have this knowledge, he's going to ridicule you and use your close friends and family to do this. It just goes on and on. You see on the next page here, again, this opposition coming from Satan. Do not allow anything to stop you from gaining this knowledge. It's your everlasting life. Oppose the devil. He's going to keep trying over and over again to deceive you and oppose you and mislead you. They really throw Satan in your face, and they're trying to scare you. And they're trying to also draw you away from your friends and family and bring them into their fold, because they always have a very black and white mentality. That's how cults operate. An example of how they are dishonest with the unsuspecting public is found right on their very own website, in answer to the question, do Jehovah's Witnesses shun former members? Look at the blatant lies they tell. Yeah, it's talking at the very beginning, it's talking about those who were baptized but who no longer preach to others and may have drifted away. It says they are not shunned. Well, I can tell you right now for a fact that most people I know who no longer go to meetings anymore are either shunned or they lose all their friends. Some of them are outright shunned, many of them are. But what Jehovah's Witnesses will say is that you're shunning us because you're not coming to our meetings anymore. So you're shunning us. Or they'll say that they no longer have anything in common with you. But that is crazy, because I just had lunch yesterday, for example, with an atheist and 2 Muslim girls. And we had a fantastic time together. We have much in common. So this idea that because you don't share the same religious beliefs as people means you have nothing in common with them is absolute cult talk and absolute rubbish. The next paragraph here, it talks about people who've committed a serious sin and how they haven't repented. And these are the ones who will be shunned or disfellowshipped. Well, again, that's nuts. There's people like me who didn't do a gross sin, and I was repentant, and yet I was still disfellowshipped because they wanted to make an example of me. There's people who just simply don't want to be part of the organization, and they're caught celebrating a birthday or putting up a Halloween decoration or some other crazy thing, caught smoking or something. Boom, let's disfellowship them. How can you say that's a gross sin? It's not. So that's, again, not accurate. And the third thing there really angers a lot of people, I know, because it's saying that, well, what if the man is disfellowshipped and he has a wife and kids and they're all Jehovah's Witnesses? It's saying here that the religious ties are cut, but the blood ties remain. The marriage relationship and normal family affections and dealings continue. Absolute lie. That is not true. I know for a fact people who've had witnesses deliberately intervene in their marriage and encourage them to get divorced on the grounds of spiritual endangerment. They refuse to be honest because right-hearted people would never support this kind of nonsense. So they resort to blatant lies about it. If they truly believe that shunning is in the Bible and that Jehovah supports it, then they should be proud of it. They shouldn't have to resort to dishonesties and half-truths. Another example regarding Watchtower dishonesty is what happened with 1975. I did an entire video on this, which I'll put in a link to it below, because it shows exactly what was said and promised regarding 1975. So I won't go into huge details now, but just in a nutshell, what they said and how they encouraged people and how they're the ones who whipped everyone up into this frenzy that the end of the world was going to happen, encouraging people to sell their homes, encouraging them to quit their jobs and pioneer. It had a very detrimental effect on people's lives. And I'm living proof of that. The bad that can happen when you're a JW. But my family did suffer as a result. We had to sell our home. We had to move 3,000 miles away and start all over again. My dad quit a very cushy government job and ended up working as a janitor for the rest of his life. Not that that's a bad thing, but it ain't a good thing. You know, when you're like 55 years old and you're pushing a broom when you could have been pushing a pencil, you know, at a nice government cushy job, you know, ain't cool. And to have the organization just sort of say, oh well, and then to try to now push it under the rug and make it look like it's just a bunch of, you know, wayward JWs at the back of a Kingdom Hall who came up with this is outright dishonesty. And it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, because those of us who did suffer from the horrible things that this organization encouraged their members to do aren't pleased to see them not even apologize, not even acknowledge what they did to people. And I'm one of thousands of people this happened to. Okay, I'm no, sole case, that's for sure. You remember when I showed you that Kingdom Ministry earlier, when it had that line about the old switcheroo, that when they gain your confidence, then they're going to shove in one of their Bible study aids, even though you told them you didn't want one of them in your face? Well, this sums up really how the organization operates. Once they've gained your confidence in some of their basic teachings, like for example, once they've got you hooked on the idea that it wouldn't be great to live in a paradise earth, and the Bible supports this, and they'll show you various scriptures why this might make sense. Once they've got you on those ones, then they start, as I said, they've gained your confidence, so they'll throw the crazy things in your face then. And you won't really bat an eye, because you're kind of going to have the idea that, well, I really want to be in the paradise, so the other things I don't understand, I'll wait on Jehovah for those things. Or I just got to get to the paradise, and then we'll worry about all the weird things. Like, are we actually going to eat animals still? Or am I going to be married to my husband still? Or what about the husband I had before who passed away? All the questions you have no answers to. They'll just say, don't worry about them. Just get there. And it's this kind of thing, this kind of mentality where you don't have any plausible answers that make any sense to your questions. But don't worry about it. Just accept it. It's this kind of mentality that keeps people hanging on and keeps people caught up in this organization. For more information on how this kind of blatant manipulation works, you can read about it on the Open Minds Foundation website, where they have a whole page where they talk about Stephen Hassan's idea about the bite model and just how exactly it works. As I said earlier, it's really scary what happens to people once they've been indoctrinated into this organization. When preaching, they don't seem to really answer anybody's questions anymore. They just refer you all to the website. There's no thinking that takes place. In fact, everything is so dumbed down these days that they even have a simplified Watchtower magazine. And if you ask the wrong question, they'll accuse you of being argumentative and either walk away from you, or they just shut down like an ATM machine when you put in the wrong password. You're being critical of us, boom, we're out, done, and they just walk away. It's really sad to see that really nice people have been taken in by this organization. They were at a vulnerable point in their life. They believed everything that was handed to them because they happened to be open to those ideas at that particular time when they were vulnerable. And now they're in a position where they don't think anymore. They just put blinders up and they believe everything that the JW org tells them. What's really sad is that many times it's to their detriment that this happens, because they have lost friends and family along the way. They're even prepared to sacrifice their life to these beliefs. And they're even prepared to sacrifice their children's lives to these beliefs. And it has happened. And that's what is so sad about it, that they don't realize that the beliefs of this organization, the policies, have changed. And one day the organization may have a policy on blood fractions, for example, and the next day they could have a totally different policy. And the witnesses will blindly just go along with whatever the Watchtower says at any given time and seemingly forget how dearly they once held their previous beliefs and how much they were willing to defend their old beliefs. Now, an about-face has happened. They've done a complete 180 in their beliefs on something, for example, a total flip-flop, yet they will accept whatever the Watchtower says. Take a look and see, for example, what they did say about blood fractions at one time. This is from a 1961 Watchtower, September the 15th. The question asks there, in paragraph 16, it says, is God's law violated by such medical use of blood? Is it wrong to sustain life by infusions of blood or plasma or red cells or the various blood fractions? Yes. Yet here we see about 55 years later in the Keep Yourself in God's Love book, where it says in paragraph 11, today, through further processing, these components are often broken down into fractions that are used in a variety of ways. Could a Christian accept such fractions? Does he view them as blood? Each one must personally decide on this matter. Well, this is crazy. The only thing I can agree with in their so-called logic is that each one must personally decide on this matter. That I agree with. But this business of Does he view them as blood? Well, of course they're blood. They came from blood. Parts from a stolen car, whether you break them down or not, and you try to sell off parts from a stolen car or parts of parts, like parts of an engine, you try and sell that and try and say it's legitimate. Are you seriously okay with that? No, it's all part of a stolen car. Regardless of how you slice it, it is what it is. Blood fractions are from blood, donated by, quote, worldly people. How can you possibly be okay with this if you accept their reasoning on blood transfusions not being accepted? It doesn't make any sense. In 1982, the organization changed their policy and allowed some blood fractions to be allowed. And then after the year 2000, they've come up with their policy that they have now, that blood fractions are allowed. But how many people died in between? So from 1961 to 1982, all those years, how many people died refusing what they thought was God's law on something when it was nothing more than a policy from this organization? So we've seen how JW.org recruits people, and we've seen how people have changed once they have been indoctrinated. The changes are very subtle at first. Like, for example, women will stop wearing pants to the Kingdom Hall. But why? There's no good reason for this. It's just an example of the absolute control the organization has to have on all of their members. And you can read more about this, as I said, in the BITE model. But it just goes to show that if you can get people to alter their behavior and alter their wardrobe for no good reason at all, then they are ripe for full-on indoctrination and full-on manipulation. Little by little, they conform to the policies of JW.org until they are thoroughly indoctrinated and their assimilation has been complete. As we've seen, the Jehovah's Witnesses organization recruit members exactly like any other multi-level marketing company or cult. You could make the case that all companies use manipulation within their advertising. But how many companies get you to shun your family or let a child die from refusing a major blood component while saying it's a conscience matter if they were to accept a minor one? It's just crazy, this kind of thinking. And JW.org is an organization that simply cannot deliver on their promises. They make all kinds of promises to you, but you will get nothing, not even a free moisturizer. I don't believe that individual witnesses are aware that they are out there manipulating or trying to deceive people. But the fact of the matter is that their organization does get them to employ guilt and fear tactics and downright dishonesties, including the old switcheroo method, to try to gain members. Bible students are simply not given the true facts about the organization. They don't know about what really happened in 1975. They don't know what really happens in terms of shunning. They're given outright deceitful claims about it from the Society's own website. How can they possibly know what happens until it's too late? And then their whole life could be ruined and turned upside down. People don't like to be lied to. Would people become members if they knew the true facts about shunning and the true nature about what really happened within the organization? Would they want to become a Jehovah's Witness if they really knew? I don't think so. So the next time you're offered a free home Bible study, just be aware that it comes at a very high price. So that's it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, then like it. And feel free to share it and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much and all the best.